welcome back. Whilst we debate whether or not Nigeria was great or not great 2024, apparently, of course, the numbers say otherwise, that things were really, really tough and they have not gotten better. Just a few adjustments in the price of PMS, now less than 1,000. It was over 1,000 in most parts of the country. So those are the conversations a lot of people are having. But inflation is still at 34.6% as at November last year. And by this January 15th, we're going to know how it looks like in December. We can talk about food inflation, but we can also talk about some gains as well. But while we're discussing all of these big things at the macroeconomic levels, there are people who do not understand this because of insecurity in their states or in their communities. They don't live in their houses. They've left their ancestral homes. They're just all over the place, but they've been put together in IDP camps, internally displaced persons camps, and some of them have been there for many, many years because there has not been a clear resolution as to the peace, law, and order in the areas where they live and their communities. And these are the guys who, as a matter of fact, are responsible for some of the food we eat, especially parts of the north as well, places like Benue State, which is going to be our real focus today, the IDP situation in Benue State. It's called the food basket of the nation because of the arable land and the potential. Places like Benue, food should be literally littering on the street if it's that possible. But we've seen situations where communities that are supposed to be in their farms are now out there in IDP camps, now depending on the state and donor agencies to be able to survive every other day. So it's been a very, very difficult time for some of these people. So we're going to be talking to the persons who have been relating with these people, the persons who understand what it takes to bring to fore a strong narrative as to the plight of those persons who have now been caught up by issues of insecurity. It's been up and on, off and on. And so let's bring them in now. Professor Patrick Okase is a professor of history and developmental studies, Prince Abubakar Audu University in Ayingba, Kogi State. He joins us via Zoom. Dr. Helen Dennis Tenge, National Coordinator, Community Links and Human Empowerment Initiative in Benue State, joining us via Zoom from Makurdi as well. We also have Victoria Dar, the Executive Director, Elohim Development Foundation, Social Development Consultant. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hello.
Okay. Maybe we need to mute some of our devices. So let's start with Professor Patrick on this particular one. I've just given a little background, just an overview of the situation of the IDPs in Benue State. But maybe you can give us a broader perspective as to the challenges these people face before we deep dive into some of the causes and what is really responsible for some of these things and how we can look for a better 2025 in sending these people back to their ancestral homes.
Thank you very much for having me. The humanitarian situation in Benue State is very, very problematic. Since 2010, Benue State has been at the center of various types of crises. But unfortunately, it has been farmer headers conflict, which has put the state in a very, very problematic situation. From 2010 to 2024, the state has suffered various dimensions of conflicts, which has put a number of our people in IDP camps. Studies have shown that the state government established 6 official IDP camps, while we also have well over 22 unofficial IDP camps scattered across the state. Now, whereas the official IDP camps had well over more than 100,000 displaced persons, the unofficial IDP camps has more than 500,000 displaced persons. Now, what do we mean by official and unofficial IDP camps? The official IDP camps are the ones established by the state government. The unofficial IDP camps are the ones established by displaced persons who couldn't find their way in the official IDP camp. And so these people have found themselves from home to homelessness. And in the last 7-8 years, in fact, some of them have been in those camps for more than 10 years. Most of those children have not seen the four walls of classroom in the last 10 years. Most of them have not seen their villages in the last 10 years, because for most of the communities that have been displaced, the headers particularly have taken over those places. I'll give you an example. In my local government, Benue West, where I come from, out of the 15 council wards, 12 of the council wards have been sacked by headers. They have not only sacked, but they have occupied those places, making it impossible for the farmers and the rural dwellers to go back to their homes and carry out their legitimate business. Now, most of these people are concentrated or living in IDP camps. Those IDP camps, you know, health, sanitary, food, and accommodation problems. And so, basically, the humanitarian crisis in Benue State in the last 10 years, it is not just something of today, in the last 10 years, has been very, very disturbing, to say the least.
Dr. Helen, I'd like you to weigh in. Let's take it to Dr. Helen, Prof. Dr. Helen, I'd like you to weigh in on this reality of the people and how we got here in the first place, because it talked about 10 years of living outside your home. Nobody's going to be comfortable. That is not a reality anybody wants to live with. Dr. Helen? If you can hear? Dr. Helen, if you can help me on mute so that we can hear you.
Okay, great. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Did you get my question?
Yeah, go ahead. You said?
I was saying 10 years in IDP camp. How did we get here, and why do we have the people still at the IDP camps?
Okay, so great question, and thank you for asking. How did we get here? It's one question that is linked to so many reasons. We have issues on resources, scarce resources. And before now, we always would think the issues were just between the herders and the farmers. But studies have revealed that, you know, you have a climate change issues to this. You have issues of insecurity. You have, when you talk about scarce resources, the issues of land. Benue State is majorly an agricultural state. And you would notice that we have a boom in population. There's an escalation in the population growth around the Benue region, you know. And then, but the land had not increased in size. And since the major occupation people who are farmers, that in itself created a lot of tension between herders who would just come and also would need the land to graze for their cows. So that has been one of the underlying issues. And of course, deeper is the issue of climate change, where the herders would normally just keep their cattle for water, and grass had all dried up, and the better green grass was found within the north central, which is Benue State. We also have issues of mineral resources, where we have persons who want to come and excavate Benue just because of the deposits of huge mineral resources at some parts of the state. So, but hugely so, if issues of insecurity were being tackled and timely, we wouldn't be where we are. I agree absolutely with Prof. that people are living in the IDP camps, huge numbers of persons. The new thing that happened recently in Benue State was that the unofficial camps have now been all called official camps. But it doesn't in any way change the issues that the people there face. Issues of shelter, they don't have enough shelter. We have persons who are just living under makeshift shelters. We have issues of food. They are there and they are hungry. Imagine IDPs who were farmers and were producing enough food for the whole country and now living in deep hunger. Issues of education. Children for the past 10 years, 15 years. If you go to Kwande local government, first we have wards that have been displaced not just for 10 years, but for about 15 years, ongoing, back to back, where nobody lives in the ward as we speak now. And also, children have not been in school. Healthcare, we have issues, rise in trafficking, because women cannot afford their daily income. So there's increased rate in trafficking. You know, the list can go on and on and on. You know, cheap labor among IDPs. So we are here, and I think the journey is still far, because as we speak, yesterday I was in contact with somebody in Way West, and as we speak, there was another threat letter that the community got, that there may be another attack before the end of January. So the issues are still on, the insecurity is still on, and persons are still living in the IDP camps.
Quite a lot to take in there, you know, this is also amid concerns about security in Benue State still persisting. There are reports of attacks in Katsina local government, and I'm coming to you now, Jessica. The reports of attack in Logo local government. There were even reports of attack on Christmas Day 2024, and that brings me to my question. Some of these IDP camps are located in areas where there are security concerns. Jessica, perhaps you'd like to tell us about, you know, security in these areas where the IDP camps are also located, and you also want to share your own experience as well about your displacement. Jessica, you may need to unmute so that we can hear you. Okay, it appears as if we're unable to get through to Jessica right now, but we'll get to Jessica shortly. We understand that Jessica has an interesting story to tell about her own personal displacement, and would like to also know how she has been surviving these very challenging times. 100,000 persons displaced in Benue is quite a number. What is the provision made for those who are displaced in these IDP camps that have now all been categorized as official IDP camps? We understand Jessica is with us now. Jessica, go ahead. Did you get the question, by the way? Hello, Jessica.
Yes. Okay. For the IDP camp issues we are facing here, it's so pathetic. If you can hear me, I think I'm having network issues here.
Go ahead, Jessica. We can hear you now, loud and clear.
Can you hear me? Okay. In person of Jessica Oshio, I am also affected. As I speak to you right now, my community, my household, my mom is also living in IDP camp. She thought that staying there, the government would do something about them return to the village soon.
Stop touching. Don't be touching it.
Go ahead, Jessica. Can you hear me? We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So the security, concerning the security at the various places the IDP camp is located is not guaranteed. It's not, because I don't seem to understand where security people will be mounted close to these IDP camps, and at the same point, the headers will attack the IDP camps and people will be killed. I am speaking as a victim. So if I will express how I felt or what I think, I may be hitting the government raw, which I don't want to, because I'm speaking as a displaced person. The various places, the security, the IDP camps are mounted. You will always see security posts close to the place. I don't know whether they are there just for pictures, but whenever headers come, they attack these places, and the lives that will be lost, I don't really understand concerning security. So as being a victim, I don't think it's wise for me to say anything concerning the security at the various places the IDP camps are held.
I understand that, Jessica, but have you witnessed any attack personally?
Yes. Last year, my mom, as I said earlier, my mom is also staying in one of the IDP camps right now.
And the
when the government,
go ahead.
Yes, when the government came in seat, it announced that the houses that are affected, the communities that are affected should go one place, to go and stay in one place so that their data will be collected and so that they will know the specific people or the number of people that are affected. So they moved them, unlike me, and I was staying with her, my mom, in the house bed. Hearing the announcement, she moved to the IDP camp with the hope that something will be done to that and she'll be returned back home. If you try pulling these people, they are already old and they are used to where they came from. They are used to staying in their villages. They are used to going to their farms. So keeping them in town is very difficult. If you are affected, you will understand the points I am driving at. Trying to keep them under your care in town, of which they are already used to staying in the village, going to farm on daily basis, is very difficult concerning their age, even the young ones. If at all you can accommodate, if you at all have something to feed 1 or 2 or 5, how long will you continue? The economic state of it is very hard, as we all know.
So Jessica,
we're saying yes. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I understand that because of security concerns, you may not want to talk about your personal experience during the attack. So we'll just have to rest on that. But where are you putting up currently?
In a rented apartment in Makurdi, where I'm staying with.
Okay.
My younger ones and extended ones that I feel, the younger ones that I feel they should stay with me there and at least be going to school rather than staying with their mothers in the IDP camp.
All right, let's go to Ms. Victoria now. Jessica has talked about the concerns about the conditions of those in the IDP camps and even, those who were initially productive in their ancestral homes, but they're no longer productive currently at the IDP camps, which is what I want you to speak to. The state of affairs at the IDP camps for those who were agrarian, prior to this time, and now not having much to do. What arrangements are being made, or what advocacy should, CSOs, non-governmental organizations, be looking at to ensure that these displaced persons remain productive if they must continue to put up in these IDP camps?
Thank you, Bukola. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. first and foremost, I'd like to say that there's no way you can get them to be at their full potential as they were while they were in their communities and while they were living and doing what they know how to do best. Right now, what a lot of CSOs and donor agencies have tried to do under the term empowerment is just to try to teach them a new skill, something they can use to survive. But in teaching these new skills, you can't teach everybody. Remember, at the IDP camps, we have men, women, children, and then we have the aged. The men, most of the men in the IDP camps don't usually remain in the IDP camps. What they do is, in the morning, they go into the host community, they try to give themselves for labor, they are working there on people's farms, in the communities that are safe, they are out trying to just make ends meet. But when we go to the communities, we try, most times, the empowerment that comes is for women and girls. Because it is believed that women and girls are more vulnerable at this time. But we forget that we have the aged. Now, these aged people might be very old, but while they were in their communities, they were still doing something. Some of them were craftsmen. They had something productive they were doing. But right now, they are in the camps, and because they are so weak, they can't do anything. Now, even for the women and girls, when we go for empowerment and we teach skills, most of these skills cannot be deployed in the IDP camps. Let me give you an example. You teach 100 women in one particular camp how to bake or make confectionaries or soap. Where is the market for it? So every 100 women in one camp know how to make liquid soap, know how to make bathing soap, know how to do, but where is the market for it? Everybody is now making the liquid soap, at least for the first week. Who buys it? Who uses it? So it becomes challenging. Now there are some who have trained the young men on other skills, welding, fabrications, and things like that. Those young men have been able to go into host communities, into the city center to get one or two things to do. But a lot of people would still prefer to go back to their farms. I remember maybe a few years ago, like 5 years ago, there was talk that everywhere is safe, so community members can go back. We know how that ended. A few who attempted to go back to their communities were either shot and killed, or some just managed to escape with their lives. Because, like my colleagues have said, not just that they have been displaced, some of their communities have been occupied. So you displace them and then you occupy the community. So there's no talk of going back. Now we're trying as much as possible to empower people, but remember that these people are people who are already traumatized. These are people who are already suffering from a lot. If you go to the camps, we've tried to hold some therapy sessions for children in the camps. You'll be so sad at what will come out of it. Just asking children to express themselves through art therapy. You find children drawing pictures of men holding guns, trying to shoot, or trying to show blood, just very gory pictures are what children are painting, which tells us the state of their mind. I am more interested in the mental state of the people. Because, yes, it's good to empower, but are we actually able to give them what they really want to learn? It's not easy. There's donor fatigue already, and even the NGOs working in the camps are tired.
All right.
So we have to keep, revolving, sending in new staff every time to reduce the effect, the traumatization. That's the secondary trauma on the providers of the services. So yes, we're trying to empower. There's a lot of work going on, but most times this empowerment is uniform across board, and there's no market for what we're training the people to do. So there's still a lot to be done.
Now, and what you've described, madam, is just it seems like a messy situation, something lasting for this long, and then you imagine the spiral effect, the children, so they will grow up to be adults. I mean, you wonder what that future would be like. So let me go back to Prof and just speak directly to this point. So the challenges are not peculiar to Nigeria or to that region, be it climate change, be it conflicts, having either herders or farmers. All of those factors and challenges are not peculiar to us. We see other climes going through this, and they found a way to resolve it and even thrive, flourish in spite of all of these challenges. So it's quite simple. It is a crime being committed. And that's why we have government. That's why we have law enforcement agencies. That's why we have the justice system. So can we just maybe speak to what it is? A crime being committed, people are not punished for it, and then it keeps continuing. Can we say it's as simple as that? All right, I'll come back to Prof. Looks like the connection isn't working out. So let me go to Dr. Helen. Same question to you, really, because it looks like it's quite simple, and that's for Dr. Helen. A crime being committed. There's meant to be the law to take care of the crime and the justice system to ensure that that crime is punished and we seek redress for the victims. Is it as simple as that for you, Dr. Helen?
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with you absolutely. Behind all of these perpetrators are people who are committing crime.
I didn't get the question very clearly.
Sorry.
Okay,
we'll come to you, but let's allow Dr. Helen land on the point she was making. Please go ahead, Dr. Helen.
So I don't think it's as simple as that. We're trying to say that we are in a nation that is totally unruly, where people escape after committing certain crimes. We're trying to say that our systems and structures are no longer working as a country. Not pursuing the criminals and bringing them on the law and giving them the appropriate punishment, so to say, is simply, we're also making a statement that Nigeria is becoming an unruly state, which I think is not right. So it is about the willingness of our leaders to put an end to this. We may have some theater, forgive me, let me call it that way, out there in the field being dramatized, where security agencies will mount vehicles, some patrol in the field, so to say, for a while. But while they are still there, attacks are still ongoing, just like Jessica would say, even among the camps, in the host communities. Lands that have been taken and occupied, so it's much more the government should do, except if they are saying that within the government, we have persons who are compromised already.
All right, let me take this to Prof.
The government should have to come out strong and make a statement.
Right.
It's not as simple as that.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Helen. So, Prof, let me come to you now. I really hope you can hear me. Is there perhaps some nuance or nuances that we're not taking into consideration here? As I said earlier on, these challenges are not peculiar to us as a nation, or at least to that part of the country. We have this across the world, and they've been able to resolve it. A crime is committed, people are arrested, they are prosecuted, and then the law takes its course. So, Professor Okase, the same question to you, but maybe deeper. Are we maybe not taking cognizance of some nuances? Is there sentiments here and there? Are there times that maybe government law enforcement say, you know what, don't go and arrest because perhaps this might even mess things up the more? That's for you, Professor Okase. Okay, we'll come back to Prof, hopefully. So let me go back to Victoria, or rather, let me go to Jessica before we come back to Victoria. Jessica, I know it's a very tricky one for you. At least we're glad that you've been able to turn things around for yourselves, but there are still thousands more in those camps. Yes, you don't want to speak to security, but if you were to have a sit down with government, perhaps a heart-to-heart conversation, Jessica, from someone who has experienced it, from someone whose family members are still experiencing this, what would you tell them from your heart to their heart? And this is just being very honest. What are things you wish they knew?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for asking me this. I will first of all ask the government whether I am an indigent. I'll ask the government whether I am not a stranger in my father's land. If at all I will be told that I am not a stranger and I am an indigent, I will go ahead and appeal to them. Keeping us in IDP camp is not the best. Returning us back to our various villages is the best you can do to us. We don't need your money, we don't need your rice, we don't need your food in IDP camps. All we need is going back to our place, our villages. As we are living in IDP camps now, we do go out, look for plots of land from people, the other neighboring villages that are a bit safe, hire these places, farm. At the end of the day, the villages, we hire these places from them. We cultivate the crops we plant, and they will harvest it, and you have nothing to say. Your money will be gone, what you planted will be gone, and you have nothing to say. You came to them, asked them for plot of land, paid, you planted, and they will harvest it because you ran out of your village. If at all you have access to go back to your village, at least you can farm something. It's the food that is feeding the nation at large. If we are stuck in IDP camps and we continue buying food, my people, how do you expect us to survive in IDP camps by just the food you give to us everyone monthly? At times, some months, they don't even see anything. I am staying in IDP camps. That is why I am saying this. I know what we are facing in IDP camps. Now, the various IDP camps have been merged in one place. I don't even see any hope of going back to our homes anytime soon. Because the last time I visited, we didn't even, if the last time we visited the village, I could not even recognize my own village. Even with the military escort, we were able to get. If we lost any of us, we have to find money, these hard times, and paid security to accompany us to go and bury. Getting to our village, we have to be looking for where exact is our village. Because of the bush, everything is down. You can only notice maybe a tree, if one tree is still standing. Some of our government leaders, at times, I doubt at all if at all they have conscience. You see your people living in IDP camps and suffering like this, and you are not bothered. You are not doing anything, returning us to our homes. What do you really stand? How do you feel? Assuming it's your village, your people that are living in these places, can you sit at home and sleep peacefully? Your children are schooling. Your children are living under your homes in a very good, conducive environment. Other people, other parents, we are staying in IDP camps, and you are okay with that. If at all the security people, the posts that are close to these IDP camps, the headers always attack the IDP camps. That is where Mrs. Elizabeth, right, was saying something about. I said I am not convinced that the government actually wants us to go back to our places. They are not interested in returning us to our homes. If the security posts are close to these IDP camps, headers will come, penetrate the IDP camps and kill people, and nothing will be done. Does it mean that the headers have spiritual ways of flying into places and flying out? They don't have hideouts? There's an experience I had. I was going to one village to buy yam because I hawk to feed myself and to feed the younger ones they are staying under me. Even my mother staying in IDP camp, is through my hawking, I send food to her.
All right.
I encountered the headers on the way. We had to run inside bush. We hide for some times. After they walk past to the forest path, we reach the village. There are some few persons, some few men are still there. The ones that have mind, because actually if you come out of that village, they don't really have anything or any other thing doing than roaming about and begging people for food. So some men do still insist to stay inside. When we got to the village, they told us that they have been seeing these herders. They have been entering with guns in the forest. That is why they gather in the night to sleep in one hut, in the one remaining building that is still standing. After that day, I came back. The next day, a massive killing occurred in that village. It's way west here, very close to Makurdi. So you can imagine that. Even the villagers see where these people are camping, yet the government is failing to see where these people that are attacking and killing us on daily basis are hosting.
You've made a great point. So let me take it to Dr. Helen. Dr. Helen, if you can hear us. There's a clear indictment from her on perhaps the complicity of government. Maybe government will have to come out to speak for themselves. 10 years down the line, what do you make of some of the things she has said? I just want to leave it at that. What do you make of some of these? Because for her, she doesn't feel that the government is interested in returning them to their ancestral homes. I know the government would like to respond, but what do you make of that statement? Dr. Helen, that's for you if you can hear me.
The government is not interested in our way.
I did hear you. Jessica speaking from experience, and of course nobody will stop her from airing her own opinion. And she is speaking out of what she has seen, she's speaking out of what she's felt, she's speaking out of what she knows. At the civil society space, we've carried out advocacy over time around the state government stepping in, or federal government at some point. I remember the other regime where civil society would stage a call using social media and works and all of that, just to draw the federal and state government's attention to the issues she raised. Once or twice, along the line or over the years, we see some attempts around the government to show that I'm talking about the state government now, to show that they are making some attempt to respond to these issues. However, we know it can be more than that. And then some of the arguments have been that when it comes to security, the autonomy is with the federal government. Now, if it's there, it means that they ought to do much more. We've also used around insufficient personnel among security, the security sector, and a lot of issues the government would normally put on the table, trying to justify why their response have been, permit me call it epileptic, so to say. But I think it is something the government should go back, put on their drawing table, and place what is topmost, what is the priority. Okay. If we are all indigent, why would you allocate 3, 4, 5 security personnel to one political personnel? Meanwhile, the same indigent who has the same rights, living in the same country, out there in the community, would not enjoy security. All right, Dr. Helen, so,
let's take it to Mrs. Victoria, just because of time. Mrs. Victoria, maybe your response as well to some of the things that Jessica has said. 2 minutes, 1 minute.
When you say government, there's always that show, and we always hear it, that we want the IDPs to go back to their communities. But on the other hand, we're building more permanent structures for them in designated areas. So I get a bit confused. If you are building structures that are a bit more permanent, are you not indirectly saying that you people are going to stay here and you are not going anywhere, at least for the next 4 or 5 years? So I get confused there. If you're building more structures, more permanent structures, because we've always known that camps should be temporary. But in our case in Benue, our camps have become permanent because people should not be in camps for 10, 12, 13 years. So what the government is doing is misplaced for me. As long as these communities are not safe, there's no talk of anybody going back. Even the government themselves cannot go into the communities. You heard Jessica saying that when people die, you pay to go and bury your loved ones in the community. Who are the people? The concept of unknown government, you asked whether people are, is it not very simple? It's a crime. People should be punished. But we say we don't know the people who are perpetuating the crime. We say we don't know them, so they are unknown. We say there are people behind these things that are pushing or benefiting from it. In every crisis, there are people who are benefiting. And if people are benefiting, they are going to do everything to thwart it. What government needs to do is to find these people, bring them to order, and then look at making the community safe. I can assure you that if the communities are safe, at least to a reasonable point, even the IDPs will be willing to go back as a community and rebuild their communities with some support from people. Right. But once nobody can enter those communities, then what we are saying is we're just beating around the bush. Security is the government's responsibility, and government has to sit up to it, whether we like it or not.
A fine place to just wrap it up. Victoria Daw is the Executive Director, Elohim Development Foundation, Social Development Consultant. We also had Dr. Helen Tennis Tengbe, National Coordinator, Community Links and Human Empowerment Initiative, joining us from Makurdi as well. Professor Patrick Okase is a Professor of History and Developmental Studies, Prince Abubakar Odi University in Nanyangba in Kogi State, also joining us via Zoom, as well as Victoria Daw, Executive Director, Elohim Development Foundation. Oshio Jessica, a displaced person who is now putting up at a location with her siblings while their parents are still at the IDP camps. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you.
All right, so
thank you for having me.
We're not done with this conversation. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to another layer of it. We'll be right back.